Now, that survey suggested that almost 3/4 of trusts across England are trying to fix that serious shortage of medical staff by looking abroad. But by luring foreign doctors here, is the NHS simply creating a crisis elsewhere? And should we care? Well, I've been to one Eastern European country to ask if we're getting their doctors on the cheap without any regard for the consequences. Two doctors, one young, one old, both Romanian. Louisa Backer is inserting an abdominal drain. She works in Romford.
I love my job. I love working with patients. Did your tummy get bigger, basically? NHS it's a world-class health system. I get here the opportunity to learn something new and not worry about your rent.
Leon Daniela practices brain surgery back in Romania.
I don't have a large fortune. I think I'm the poorest doctor in the world.
Two systems, one rich, one poor. The rich, the NHS, sucks in talent from around the world at the expense of the poor. So, what is that doing to Romania? Bucharest. Leon Daniela is removing a brain tumour. He'll be 83 in July.
If the doctor's in good health, it's good to work into old age.
I don't use the glasses. My hands don't tremble.
Leon earns less than £500 a month. He's one of thousands who couldn't retire, even if they wanted to. They're desperately needed. There are so few young doctors here. It means medicine in Romania is increasingly becoming a pensioners' profession. Last year there were more than 8,500 doctors over the age of 60. Compare that with 1,300 under the age of 30. Across Bucharest, students from the Carol Davila Medical School. In Britain, it costs just under £200,000 to train a medic. But it costs next to nothing to take one ready trained from here. There's just the wages to pay. So in effect, Romania is subsidising our health service. And we seem to like it that way. So do the students here in Romania.
The United Kingdom is on top of my list.
My first and technically only choice is the UK.
They'll join around 2,000 Romanians practicing in Britain. They can earn 10 times what they get here.
The high wage is really the main reason I would go abroad.
And there's another way that Romania subsidises the NHS. Believe it or not, there are British students training here in Bucharest. Britain limits its medical school places. It even cut them 3 years ago because the government thought there'd be too many hospital doctors in future. So British students rejected by our medical schools come to countries like Romania instead. And guess what? Once they're qualified, we snap them up, despite saying no a few years earlier. Like Aaron Williamson, who's been studying in Romania for 2 years. And Anil Velivela, who's been here for 3.
I didn't get a place in a UK university, and I read about the opportunities to study abroad.
The classes themselves are in English. I'll be fully qualified to do the job.
It's a little loophole, and I was very surprised when I read about it, but you know, it benefits me, so I'm happy about it.
Like the Romanians, their training also costs the NHS nothing. Back with our doctors Leon and Louisa. So a success, you hope?
No, I want tomorrow to see.
Okay. Both are concerned about the exodus of medics to countries like Britain.
Yes, they are a loss to the Romanian health system. We need a lot of doctors.
We're not encouraging enough junior doctors to stay. And it's not only about the pay, it's about investing in the hospitals, proper services to support the patients.
our hospitals scour the world with shopping lists of doctors. Mark's made it his business to supply them with talent.
It's a very busy business. There are hundreds and thousands of agencies who are competing for these doctors. The most sought-after specialties are acute medicine, accident and emergency, anesthesia and intensive care, pediatrics, psychiatry and radiology.
Across Bucharest, 87-year-old cardiologist Leonida Gerasim. It's claimed here, poaching the young is making healthcare dangerous.
This is my concern. You not only lose individuals, you lose their capacity to train others.
It's a disaster. In great towns, maybe there are enough doctors, but in important towns with more than 100,000 inhabitants, the medicine in these places is done with danger.
That's because specialists have to work in areas they know little about. For example, cardiologists could be required to help out in intensive care. Back with Louisa in Romford. Her day is coming to an end. Her time in Britain isn't.
Short and medium term, I want to train and to specialize here in UK. I'll give a phone call to your wife to tell her about the medicines as well. It's a privilege to help my patients and to be trained at my best. It's both a duty and a pleasure, yes.
In Bucharest, Leon's patient has regained consciousness.
Does anything hurt?
My head.
Your head? Well, what can we do? That's where the problem is. I don't know when I'll stop. Yes, certain illnesses or situations could make me step aside. Surgery isn't a joke. People's lives depend on it.
With the present trend, many of the doctors we'll need over the next decade will no doubt come from places like Romania. The question is, should Britain expand its medical schools, or is it just cheaper and easier to rely on poorer countries like Romania to fill the gap and pay the price? Doctors have always supported free movement of labour, but the British Medical Association is concerned about the effect of excessive foreign recruitment.
There's always a balance here. Overseas doctors have always been the backbone of the National Health Service, but I think I do get worried when I hear about the way in which we can go abroad and deliberately recruit too many people, to the extent that there are some countries where a substantial proportion of their doctors are coming to work in the United Kingdom. And that could be worrying, I think, for those countries, because we're not doing them a service.
Early last December, we asked the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, for an interview to discuss the issues raised here. A month and a half later, he declined. So we asked the Health Minister, Ben Gummer, and last week, that's almost a month later, he declined. We wanted to ask them on your behalf why we can't train enough of our own doctors. Wouldn't the system collapse without the foreign staff? And isn't it wrong to exploit the health systems of poorer countries? The Department of Health did issue a statement. It said staffing was a priority, and there are now more than 10,700 additional doctors since 2010, and more than 55,000 doctors in training. Overseas staff are crucial to the NHS, but we must also train the right number of staff here. Experts were reviewing the number of medical degree places. It's pretty clear that in places like Romania, that review is going to be watched very closely. Your thoughts are always welcome, whether by Twitter or email. Let me know what you think about how the NHS is trying to cope with the doctor shortage. All my contact details are on screen now.